I'm taking JJ, I remember like he's 3 months old and we're going to Walmart and it's just me and him. And we walk in and before I would just take it for granted. Again, I had my grocery list and you just start firing stuff in the cart and now it's all an adventure and you're just trying to do everything as quickly as you possibly can because time is of the essence. And one of the items on our menu was sun-dried tomatoes. And I went up to one of the workers at Walmart and it was an older Latina lady. And I said, do you know what aisle, pardon me ma'am, do you know what aisle the sun-dried tomatoes are in? And she pointed to a button on her chest that said, I don't speak English. I said, that's fine. And I looked at her and I said, lo siento, which is Spanish for, I'm sorry. And at that moment in time, she looked at me with a look in her eye that said, I cannot believe that this guy knows how to speak Spanish. Because I looked and smelled like shit. I had my sweatpants on, my number one dad t-shirt, a backwards hat, a kid that's looking and smiling. She's like, these guys are fucking crazy. And I just said, lo siento, I'll find it on my own. And I turned to walk away, and she grabbed my arm, and she looked at me with a beautiful, loving look in her eye, and she goes, aisle 6. And then she handed me her button. She's like, that's how you learn how to not talk to people at Walmart. So I'm like, this chick has got it figured out, baby. Let's go. Smart lady. Love her. It's great. Helped me out a lot there. But it's fun, too, like seeing your friends interact with your kid when you have a newborn, especially your friends that don't have a baby. Like one of our very good friends, she's amazing. She's 36 years old. She's single, has no kids. But JJ is getting to the point where he's like exploring things, and he's starting to do things that people that don't have newborns and kids aren't ready for. And it's fun to see their reactions. It's really heartwarming. It's pretty cool. JJ has started fish hooking people. Started doing that number, right? So he's being held by our friend that has no kids, and she hasn't held a baby in a while. And she loves him, and they get along swimmingly. They get along great. And she's holding JJ, and JJ gives her the old right there, Fred. The old fish hook. And she spits out his finger. She's like, oh, disgusting. That is gross. Yuck. I don't know where his finger's been. Oh, my God. That is horrible. Yuck. While still holding him. I'm like, well, that's a bit of an overreaction. I mean, he's a baby. And second of all, I saw your Tinder date from 2 nights ago. JJ's applesauce finger is not the worst thing you've had in your mouth in the last 48 hours. You can get the hell out of here, sweethearts. It's probably the only nutrients you've got in the last little bit. Compensating with that, but that's so good. But I've had friends too, they're like, I had a friend tell me recently at my day job, they're like, Brady, are you worried that JJ's going to get any of your quirky, like, weird things, like, when you were a kid? I'm like, what do you mean? And we were talking about eating, like, different foods or whatever, and for whatever reason, when you have your work friends and stuff like that, weird conversations come up, and one of my friends is like, well, I used to eat paper when I was a kid, and I was really worried about my kid, like, eating that, and then, like, other different various types of foods, but just weird shit, right? And like, Brady, did you eat anything weird? Are you worried that JJ's gonna get that? And I rack in my brain, I'm like, yeah. I said, I actually am worried about that because I mentioned I was a professional wrestling fan, and for whatever reason, one of my favorite things to do when I was a kid, I don't know if it was a sensory thing, but I used to have a bunch of wrestling action figures, and I used to chew the plastic off the feet, like around their feet. Like, and there was like a little ring of plastic, and I would chew it off all the way down to the nub. Didn't think anything of it. I'm like, I wasn't eating paper, but it's still a little fucking weird, right? And years later, I remember even before this conversation with my work friends, I saw a bunch of stuff like when Stone Cold Steve Austin was like at his peak in wrestling, and I'm like, I had his action figure. I'm like, that's got to be worth something. And I called my mom up, and I'm like, Mom, do you still have my old wrestling action figures? I'm like, they got to be worth something. She's like, I do have them. She's like, and I just got to tell you that while the clubfoot Stone Cold Steve Austin is very rare, it's not worth a goddamn thing.